Growing up in Japan was not easy for someone with mixed blood. My mother was Japanese and my father was an American serviceman. I went to an all-girls school and I was bullied every day. It was torture. I would get spat on, kicked, punched, drinks poured on me, and of course, verbally abused. I would always get called hafu or half-breed. The torture went on like this until I was a senior in high school, and then I met a girl who would become my best friend. Her name was Saori. She was beautiful, with long, jet black hair, almond-shaped, dark brown eyes, and a smile that would light up any room she was in. We'd go out every afternoon after school and walk around Shibuya, just talking and having fun. One weekend, I asked Saori if she would like to come and stay at my apartment and we could have a girls' night. She agreed, so I hurried home and I prepared for the weekend together. That night, we stayed up watching horror movies and telling scary tales. I didn't want to go to sleep. I was so damn scared. Saori asked me if I wanted to hear a true horror story. Grabbing my blanket, I pulled it close. I nodded my head and waited for her to begin. Saori started to tell me the story of the Teke Teke. I'd never heard the story before, so I listened intently. There was a woman who was returning home from work one evening. She was set upon by a group of men who brutally abused her. After they were done, they dragged her to a railway bridge and they threw her over the edge. Sitting quietly, I took in every word Saori was telling me. From the way she was telling the story, it seemed like she was really there. As the girl flew over the edge and hit the ground, she could not move. The lights of the train came into sight. Teke 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 teke. The wheels sounded as they got closer and closer. The train driver did not see the girl on the tracks, and the train ran over her, severing her in two. Saori screamed. That made me jump out of my skin. Saori looked at me very seriously, and she said, "You will get a visit in 3 days' time." Feeling confused, I asked her what did she mean by that. Saori smiled and said, "It's time to go to bed." And with that, we laid down on our futons and we went to sleep. When I awoke the next morning, Saori was not in the house. Her bed was neatly made, and I wondered if she had to go home early and she left without saying goodbye. I tried calling and messaging Saori for the next few days, but she wouldn't answer. Was she mad at me? Had I done something wrong? Why? Why? On the third day, just as Saori promised, I got a visitor. Well, it was a phone call. "Hello? Who told you my story?" "What story?" "Who told you my story?" "My friend Saori told me." "Do you need your legs?" "What?" "Do you need your legs?" "Who is this? Saori? Is this you?" "See you soon." The phone went dead, and I sent Saori a message, abusing her for such a horrible joke. I told her it simply wasn't funny and she should be ashamed of herself. After the call, I started feeling nervous. Who the hell was playing such a sick joke on me? Was it one of the girls from my school? It wouldn't surprise me, to be honest. They loved torturing me. That night, my mother asked me to go to the store and buy some rice since we were out. It was rather late, and I would have liked to go in the morning, but Mother, she was quite insistent. The streets were strangely quiet, which is unusual for my town. Walking down the street, there were cars parked on either side of the road, and the light that bounced off of them gave a ghostly silhouette. Teke. What was that? Just my mind playing tricks on me? I was thinking back to Saori. Why wasn't she talking to me? I thought we were friends. Teke Teke. I stopped and looked around. I stopped and looked around. I'm sure I heard something. Teke teke teke. Looking into the distance, I could see a dark shape. I could not make out what it was, but the noise was definitely coming from it. Straining my eyes in the darkness, it looked like a misshapen animal. Its legs were moving strangely. Teke 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 teke. That noise, it seems to be coming to its legs as it hits the ground. Hold on. They're not legs. They were arms. Human arms. I could make out what this animal was. It wasn't an animal, but it was the torso of a woman. Her hands striking the ground. They were acting like legs. Where are her legs? This creature shrieked at me. Her voice pierced my ears, causing my hands to cup my ears instinctively. She was moving faster now. Teke 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 teke. I could see her clearly now. Her legs were gone, and her torso ended just below her breasts. Her hair was jet black, and those eyes. I know those eyes. Turning away from the woman, I ran, and I ran as fast as my legs would carry me. Running in and out of streets, trying to stay away from her. Teke 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 teke. She was getting closer and closer, but how? How was she keeping up? Her arms were moving at unnatural speeds. She was just toying with me. I was only a few meters from my home when I felt the hand grab my leg. It was pulled out from under me, and I fell hard, face first, into the cement. My nose cracked painfully as it hit the ground, and my head bounced upwards from the impact. Before I could accept the pain, I was flipped over onto my back. Saori, she was on top of me. Her arms held her body off the ground, and she smiled at me. I told you, you would get a visit in 3 days. Saori, where are your legs? Gone. I can't find them anymore, so I need a new pair. Saori, we are friends, aren't we? What's happening? Saori placed one of her hands over my stomach and she pressed it down hard, her fingers piercing my flesh. I screamed as her fingers pushed deeper inside me. There was no escape. I felt her hand push through my back, and I heard the sound of something tearing. I started coughing up blood, and it erupted from my mouth, spraying all over Saori's face. As the darkness surrounded me, I heard Saori whisper, "Since you do not need your legs anymore, I will take them." I am in my 40s, and I've been searching for someone to share my life with. My family and friends have told me I need to find someone to marry for many years now. After I got tired of listening to my friends call me Shinyu, or leftover man, I realised it was time to attempt to find someone. This wasn't easy for someone my age. I'm not a rich man, but I was desperate, and I tried everything to find a good woman. Dating apps, blind dates, even paying for a matchmaker. Nothing worked, and I was getting frustrated. It was Spring Festival, and I left Beijing and travelled to my hometown of Xi'an. My mother and father, they welcomed me home. The house was brightly decorated with brilliant red lanterns. I helped my parents clean away all the old dust from their house. This way we could welcome good luck into our home. After all that hard work, I decided to go for a walk and headed to a nearby park that I used to play in when I was a child. Strolling through the park, there was a pond, and there was a woman standing in front of it. She seemed to be lost in thought. As I walked near the pond, she turned her face, and she smiled at me. Her smile took my breath away. It was wonderful. Those beautiful red lips seemed to glow with a warm, passionate energy. I was bewitched by her beauty. Her long black hair was straight and hung softly down below her waist. She was wearing a red chipao that clung to her body tightly. I smiled back and I walked closer to her. I built up my courage and I introduced myself. Still smiling, she told me her name was Wang Hao and that she was in town visiting her family for the holidays. We talked for a few hours, getting to know each other. It was wonderful. I felt a connection with Wang Hao. We exchanged numbers and we parted ways. I felt excited and I really hoped that I would see her again. That night, we had a traditional family dinner with many dishes. I told my parents about the woman that I had met and they smiled as I spoke. Later that night, I received a message from Wang Hao asking me if I wanted to go to the festival the next night. I hurriedly accepted her offer. Time seemed to pass so slowly until I saw Wang Hao that night. I arrived where we agreed to meet, and I had to pinch myself. I couldn't believe that I was going on a date with such a beautiful woman. Wang Hao arrived on time, and this time she was wearing a golden chipao, and she looked like a goddess. She was beautiful. Things went well on our date, and Wang Hao asked me if I'd like to go back to her place for a while. I asked her if her parents would mind, but she mumbled that it'd be okay. We arrived at Wang Hao's place. It was very nice and spacious, and she told me to sit down on the lounge and wait for her, as she needed to get changed out of the chipao into something more comfortable. I was nervous being in her house, especially while she was getting changed in another room. After about 10 minutes, Wang Hao still hadn't come back from changing, so I got up and I started to look around her home. The one thing that I noticed was the lack of pictures. For a family home, that seemed rather strange, especially for a Chinese family. I called out to Wang Hao, but there was no answer. Moving around her home, I came across the master bedroom and I glanced inside, hoping that Wang Hao was in there and she'd finished changing. Looking inside her room, there was something strange dangling from the roof. It looked like a chain, like something that you'd see in a butcher's shop. Indeed, there was a large hook hanging from the center of the room, and looking at the hook, there was something dark hanging off it, so I walked into the room. The hook was swinging gently, and I realized there was indeed something on that hook. It was a woman's body. The hook was sticking out of her heart, and the girl was red. I thought it was blood, but to my shock, she had no skin. Involuntarily, I screamed. I could not stop myself. Fear welled up in me. I wanted to flee. I wanted to run. I turned, and there was Wang Hao, standing there in front of me in the doorway. I told you to stay put, but you had to look around, didn't you? She said to me. Her hand hit the side of my head with such unnatural strength. I tried to stop myself from falling, but I lost control of my body. The floor rushed up to meet me, and I could not stop it. I was laying on the floor. My ears were ringing from the blow. I could feel blood trickling out of my ear from where she had hit me. Rolling over, I saw her standing over the top of me. Her skin is lovely, isn't it? I love wearing the skin of virgins. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. What you mean, wearing skin? Virgin skin lasts longer than non-virgins. It is soft and supple. I take good care of it. I paint it every day to make it this beautiful. Am I beautiful? Not knowing how to respond, I nodded my head whilst looking at her. You are lucky. I do not like men's skin. It is too rough and coarse. It doesn't fit as well as a woman's. But I do love a man's heart. Can I have yours? Shit. She was going to eat my heart, rang into my mind. I had to escape. I managed to launch myself off the ground and straight into her lower torso, tackling her to the ground. Her body hit the floor hard, and she screamed loudly. Don't damage the skin. I will kill you. Her fingers dug into my back. I could feel them penetrate into my muscles. All I could do was scream and try and get out of her grasp. We struggled for a few moments. My hands reached up and grabbed her face. My nails scratched her face. She shrieked as I started to claw at her face. I could feel the skin ripping under my fingernails. I'll kill you! I'll kill you! You've ruined my face. I'll kill you! Once her hands let go of me, I got up and I ran as fast as I could out the front door. Wang Hao's screams pierced the air behind me. I managed to flag down a passing taxi and I jumped in. Looking back at the window at the apartment, I could see Wang Hao, red streaks across her face, looking at me. She pointed at me. Her face wore a mask of white, hot hatred. I screamed at the taxi driver to go. He slammed his foot to the floor, tires screeching as we left. When I got home, I went straight into my room and I hid in my bed. Bzz, bzz. My phone vibrated on the bedside table. Its message was from Wang Hao. I will find you. I will kill you. I have all the time in the world to find you. I turned my phone off and I hid in my room for the next few days, too scared to go out anywhere, just in case she found me. Spring Festival had ended and I jumped on a plane back to Beijing. I knew I'd be safe back home. It was a long flight, but I was glad to be back home. I opened my front door and walked inside. I headed to my room, putting my luggage down. There was a loud bang as my bedroom door closed behind me. I told you I would find you. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed today's lullabies. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you want to hear more terrifying tales from Asia, please leave me a comment down below. And remember, keep watching for what's in the dark.